Hey friends, Kevin O'Shaughnessy here, and as part of my series on how to get prepared for a gig in a short period of time, or in my case, how I'm preparing for the live music showcase on December 6th here in Boston at the Hard Rock Cafe, I wanted to put in a short video on how to get past those challenging spots in a song. In every song you probably know 80% of it pretty well, but then there's those spots. Maybe it's a transition, maybe it's a part in a solo that no matter what you do, you just can't seem to get it right. So I'm going to give you a couple of steps here on how you might do that. So here are the steps. First, go through the section you're having trouble with and identify exactly where the problem is. It's probably going to be getting into or out of one section or another, or one riff to another, but find out exactly where the problem is. It's probably going to be in a transition. Then work on the pieces of music on both sides of that transition. Make sure that you really know what you want to accomplish in both of those points. Then work on the transition. And a lot of times when you're working on the transition, all you need to do is one bar ahead, one bar after, and that's it. And just work on that until it becomes smooth. Then start putting the whole thing together again. For this example, I'm going to be using a lick that I used to end the solo for a song called I'm Sorry, which we're going to be playing at the showcase. And it goes like this. And that's how I end the solo. As I was playing the solo, no matter what I did, I couldn't get into that lick without tripping over it somehow. And so, of course, I worked on the lick. The way most people would do it is they'd work on the lick. So they'd practice. And they'd work on that, and they'd work on that until they get it right. But, of course, that's not the problem. The problem is not the lick. It's getting into and out of it. So I had to look at it again, and I say, okay, so what is it that I'm doing right before the lick? Well, what I'm playing is this. Not hard. That part right there isn't hard, but here's the critical part. This is where you have to really analyze your playing in a way that you might not be used to doing. And I found out the reason the transition was so hard is because this part right here ends on a downstroke. Now, for you non-guitar players out there, that might not mean a whole lot. And for some of you guitar players, that might not mean much either. But I would encourage you to look at the details on this, because the second lick also starts on a downstroke. And so to end one part of the lick on a downstroke, and then try to start the next lick on a downstroke was really problematic. So I had to figure out a way to take at least the first three notes and work them out on an upstroke, to start that out on an upstroke. And once I did, the lick became a lot easier. For me, the first practice part of this was to simply work on until I could get that clean. Just work that part out. And I needed to be very careful about my picking. And then I could start working it up to speed. Still got a little bit of work to do on it, but that's the idea. Now, fortunately, I've got a couple of more weeks to help clean this up, but that's what's going on. That's the idea. So just to review those steps, play through the portion of the song. In this case, it was a solo. So play through the solo and identify where the trouble spot is really going to be. Chances are excellent it's going to be at some sort of a transition from one lick to another, or maybe one section of a song to another. But find that spot. Work out the music on both sides of that transition so you can figure out each lick. Make sure you know what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of things you're going to be doing on instinct. Identify that instinct. What is that? Then look at the transition. Is there something that some way that the first lick ends that makes the second lick more difficult to start. That's what you want to try to isolate. And when you start working with that transition, just work on the transition. You don't need to go through the whole solo, and you don't need to go through both of those licks. When I practice this, that's as far as I would practice. That's as much as I needed, until I started to get that clean. So I only need one measure on one side of the transition, one measure on the other side of the transition. Or in this case, it's actually just a couple of beats on each side of the transition. Just enough. Once you've got that done, then you can incorporate the rest of the lick and then put it into the rest of the solo. So that's it. I hope you guys can take that strategy and use it to make much, much better music. I hope you guys have a lot more fun doing it. Once again, I'm playing at the Live Music Showcase December 6th at the Hard Rock Cafe here in Boston. So if you're local or you're looking to come into town, you can get tickets from the link below. And if you want to get a free download of one of the songs that we're going to be performing at the showcase, you can also find that below as well. Subscribe to the channel, leave some comments for me. I'm Kevin O'Shaughnessy. Take it easy.